I am Michelle Brown for those of you that have never met me before. And today is actually part two, because I had so much to share in part one, which was mostly about demonstrating for you the fact that this 100,000 DLA contract award within 45 days, actually it was in 60 days, is not a joke. Actually, we still have, as of today, 103,000 DLA contracts that are available to those of us that are contractors. You guys, if you know me, you know that I give a lot of information. And it's the reason I give a lot of information is because I want you to have the entire story, not pieces of the story. So we know for a fact that there are hundreds of thousands of opportunities that are sitting out there at any given time. But we are at the end of the year, the end of the fiscal year in 30 days. And now we're at 40 days. Excuse me, we are at, I believe, 38 days, not 40 days. The thing about DLA is it is an anomaly in the government contracting system because even if it's still sitting out there and it was due 5 weeks ago or 5 months ago, it's still a deal that they need to make. So today, I'm going to walk you through what that looks like if you want to be a DoD contractor. DLA is under DoD. So this is our $1 trillion budget people in the agency. Even with everything that's going on, DoD is one of the, I would say that they're like the golden child. So when new budgets are being made, most of the time they get what they want. And that means not just DLA. When you're doing DLA, like I teach you guys to do, those that are in my program, they can also do business with the Army. They can also do business with the Navy. All of these sub-agencies are separate. I didn't even tell you about what's going on the SAM side with the products. I'm just talking about DLA because once you know how to do DLA, you can do products on the SAM side, Army, Navy, Air Force. Now, they have their own subcontracts. So I didn't even include them. And I wouldn't say hundreds of thousands are out there because, again, DIBBS is a little bit different. It is a products machine. And we serve every military base, every agency under DoD that requires products. Services are handled a little bit different. They do have some services, but that is more on the level of what I do. I do products, pharmaceuticals, but I also have to do warehousing with that. So if you become a DoD contractor, and I say DoD because when you're in DLA, you can do business with DoD, all of these agencies. So let's get into it. And let's talk about how, yes, I'm saying 45 days, that's the end of their budget. They'll have to figure out what to do with the money after that if they don't spend it. But a lot of it is being spent right now, even for some of the new year, quite frankly, because they're always ahead. They plan ahead. So even though I'm saying 45 days, you can do this in 15 to 30 days if you do the things that I teach you to do. And the people that do the things that I teach them to do, they fascinate me. Sometimes they win in 2 weeks, but we're still winning a lot. But also, it feels like sometimes they're waiting to the last minute to ask you, can we make this deal? Or they're just awarding you without you even knowing what's going to happen. Okay, so let's talk about what I will teach you today. I want you to understand the foundation for winning. And let me just say this. If you know me, you've been to one-on-ones with me, like you signed up for a consultation in the past or something like that, or you've been in my live GovCon. We now do live GovCon. Anything that allows me to talk to you, you know that I believe that when you have the foundation, you can do any of this. And this is not a side hustle. This is something you need to commit to. So for those of you that do not know me, I'm Michelle Brown. A lot of you guys probably, well, I won't assume, but some of you may watch my channel. I'm not out there as much as I'd like to be, but I'm working on that. Okay. I'm working on doing more webinars. I'm working on getting more information out because I'm finding that you guys are not getting the full stories. And I want you to have the full story because that's what I went through. I'm one of you. Yes, I'm an entrepreneur. I've been one for a while, but I had to learn government contracting all by myself. And that was a good thing because it helped me to be the best. So that's good for you. It's good for me. It's good for all of us. Okay, so selling products to DLA is truly one of the fastest ways for you to win. It really is. Doesn't mean you can't win services fast on the SAM side because you can. But if you don't want to be overwhelmed with managing subcontractors and having to talk to the contracting officers a lot, because there's no such thing as a middleman. You guys know I don't believe in that. It's you and the contracting officer, which is you and the government, period. And that's how you learn to become a powerful business person. And in my system, and I have a system for everything, quite frankly, I have a system on the service side too. But business is like that. It's about making sure that you have a process, you have a way of making something happen. And most entrepreneurs fail at sales. Government contracting is probably one of the easiest sales you can make. I know you guys may not believe that, some of you, but it's true. We don't have to go and find out what their needs are. We don't have to do a bunch of presentations. We don't have to have a lot of conversations. We don't have to chase them. All we got to do is show up. Show up. Ask them what they need, find out what they need, do some research, and say, here I am. And that is 3 steps, period, the end. Now, are there other things that you have to do around those 3 steps? Well, you have to learn what's incorporated into those 3 steps. Okay. So, number one has you choosing products. How do you do that? I'm going to walk you through that. Number two is working with approved suppliers. What does that mean? I'm going to talk to you about that. And number three is make an offer. That's quoting, bidding inside the DLA system. And it's not like on SAM. On SAM side, you got to put together a whole package. You have to get pricing you have to get pricing with this too. But it's just different. And although I'm very good at services too, I have a lot of service winners. But me personally, I prefer products. And now my warehousing is services, but it's different. It's still different. And do I have to deal with the government? I do. Do I have to talk to them and talk about my people and all? Of course we do. So, but I like it better for me because it just fits me. I am tired of managing a whole bunch of people. I've managed subcontractors before. I still have to manage some, but we control our own warehousing. When I was in corporate, I always had to manage big clients. And when you don't own the company, you have a lot of problems with that because you're working with corporate America, you're working with how they do things. And there are a lot of things about corporate America that are not good. They're only successful because they're big, and they truly are not successful in a lot of cases. But you can create your own vision, you can take your own journey, you can do things the way you want to do them, and you can learn and then develop other people like I do. Okay, so that's what the system is, but it's very simple. They want to buy something, or I should say, they must buy something. And when I say must, I mean it. You just have to be the one they buy it from. And whether you know this or not, there is little to no competition the way people think it is. It's the same people winning over and over and over because they know what to do. But now, since I have been so fortunate as to develop hundreds and hundreds of people in DLA, I have hundreds and hundreds of winners that I'm so proud to talk about because they followed the system. But then they did even more than that. All I did was give them the information and they leveled up. And within a year, a lot of them are doing anywhere between 500,000 and 1 million. And now we have some that are manufacturing or preparing to manufacture products like I do, only because they learn the holes in the system. The government needs us very badly, very very badly. Doesn't matter what we see is going on as chaos. It's all true. The chaos is there. But the fact of the matter is the government cannot run without us. I have contracting officers in my program now because maybe they retired and they want to know how this works. They know their side. They don't know this side. They don't know how we do what we do. Okay. And some of you guys don't know how we do what we do, but I'm going to show you. Okay. So it's simple. They must buy something and you want to sell them something. All you have to do is show up. Now, what does that mean? There are only a few things you have to do. You have to be committed, you need to be consistent, and you need to be disciplined. First of all, if you want to have your own business, this is nothing new. And I want to tell you guys, just put your questions in the comment sections, okay? As we go. Don't wait. If you think of something or you hear something, but I want to get through this so that we can have a nice, decent Q&A session. If you don't have these three things, you're going to have to work on that, okay? As an entrepreneur, we all have to work on that. I am good at this and I do very well, and I still have to work at it because I care about my clients. I also care about my team. My team has to be developed. On my manufacturing side, fortunately, I have some experienced people that don't need me as much. They just need me to be the CEO and provide the vision, and they need me to do this. They need me to win the big contracts. That's my job over there. Yes, I'm the CEO, I'm the boss, but I don't think that I could do that if I didn't have those people with the experience. And on this team, I probably wouldn't be able to do a lot of the things that I do like now because it's not easy. These people talking about creating these courses and all that, that stuff is not easy. And again, I'm good at it and it's not easy. But I also am very detailed. So I give more probably than I should, but you guys are a reflection of me. If you use something that I create, I want you to be successful. I want all successful people around me, all millionaires around me. So what do? I want to help create them. But I focus my energy on teaching you things not just about winning contracts, but it's business, commitment, discipline, and consistency. If you don't have that, you're going to have to work on it. Okay, you're going to have to take a Saturday. And those of you that are here with me on a Saturday, it says you have commitment and discipline because you don't have to be here, but you want to learn. You want to hear what I have to say to see if I can help you on your government contracting journey. So, what must you have to win? Well, you need these three things, and it's very minimal. Products are also very easy to get into at a DLA level, at a DIBBS level. I won't say DLA because remember, DLA does big stuff too, and that's over on the SAM side. Some of that is buried deep in the DIBBS side too. You just don't see it because it's an invitation for bid. But most of the ways for you to start small is if you want to. And I suggest that everybody start kind of small, even if you have lots of money. People sometimes will ask me, Michelle, should I get some money, take some money out of my savings? I'm thinking about taking out 50,000. Not yet, not yet. Learn the process first. And if you've never had a business, you need to practice your discipline, your consistency. Planting seeds is how you win in government contracting. Planting seeds and showing up. It's just that simple. All you got to do is show up, but you need to show up like you know what you're doing. A lot of people show up very sloppy. And that's why I tell people, I don't allow people to buy my hot list. Well, and people might think, well, that's crazy. You're losing money. I don't care about that. Of course, I love making money, like we all do. That's why I'm in business. But you're not going to use my hot list and go out there and win some things and you don't know what you're doing. So it's easy for you to start from the ground up. And not everybody wins in 15 to 30 days. You guys know I will always be straight with you. But those are people that they know what they're not doing. They know. I just asked them, well, why haven't you won yet? Well, how many bids do you have in the vault? Well, you got the money. You've been have you been spending the time? A lot of times it's the time. That's why you don't see me in social media a lot because I'm you. I'm doing what you're doing just at another level. And if I don't continue to do what I'm doing, you won't get what you need from people like me because there are not a lot of people that share. And then when there's sharing going on, there's a lot of bad information out there or missing information. So if you're not doing the time, you're probably not going to win as fast. You have to tell your family, I got to work this weekend. I've learned to do that. I've learned to balance. I learned to, okay, Michelle, you may want to work because I love my work, all of my work. I'm in a place in my life where I don't have to do anything I don't want to do. I don't have to do 8A certifications anymore. I don't want to do them. I don't have to do them. I don't care if they're trying to pay me $10,000. I want to do what I want to do. And the only way to get there is I had to pay my dues. I had to leave corporate America and learn how to, even while I was in corporate America, do these things on the side. Even as the CEO, when I was teaching the veterans how to do this, the veterans are the reason I did this. When I was teaching the veterans how to do this, because I thought they were just whiny and they were just being miserable. But I found out they were right. It's not that it's hard, it's just that it's a lot of little things. They had the money. They even invested the time. A lot of them were retired, and they're young, old. You don't have to be older to retire as a veteran. We got a lot of young veterans that are service disabled, but they didn't understand the system. And when I came out here and looked at DLA, I said, they're right. This is a hot mess. I mean, you can't even tell what's going on. So I just jumped in and started. And I wrote down everything I did because I had to teach them. And they were being lied to. So it is very simple. You have to learn in business to keep everything simple because you're going to have a lot more problems anyway. You don't have to add problems to the situation. If you have someone giving you information to tell you, stay focused on the process. I'm just one of you. I know what it feels like not to know what to do. So the time. So even though I was the CEO of my other companies, for the veterans, would take a Saturday because I had to do my regular work too. But when they started telling me what suppliers were saying to them, I said, who's saying these things to you? And then I found out they were right. There were some people that were in there blocking. They're not blocking anymore because there are hundreds of us out there, even the people that did not come through my program. But there are a lot of us out there. I know the ones in my program, they went around all those blocks because you had what Richard calls the old heads. They were just not used to seeing you guys out there. So, got to invest the time. Money is really not as big of a deal. I had people coming into the program saying, Michelle, I have another business. I don't know that I can invest, any more money into this program. And I told them, and Cecil always comes to my mind because he's one of my superstars too. Cecil was winning so much he had to go take out the bids because he was winning too fast and too much. And I told him that was going to happen. And he said, yeah, you did tell me that. He said it right in front of all of our mastermind people. My mastermind is for our award winners. And he said it. He said, well, you did tell me that was going to happen. But not only did that happen, I told him, stop worrying about money. I know when you're in business, you worry about money. I get it. I do. No matter how much you have, no matter how little you have. When you have a lot, you're concerned about keeping it. When you don't have enough, you're worried about making more. I get it. But what I was telling him is, he owned a trucking company. You want to add this to your business. You needed another stream of income. I'm telling you, you got to stop thinking and worrying about the money part. Start small. Do you know he ended up, and I am not kidding when I tell you this, and he's not the only one. He ended up with $75,000 uh, in credit. He used one of the suppliers I gave him through the hot list, and within 6 months, he didn't have to use any of his money. So there's so many benefits to us doing it this way. The system doesn't just teach you to win, it gives you credit. And I don't mean like just money credit, but it gives you credit. It makes you a powerhouse when you know how to do things like this the right way. Because the more you do, the more you learn, the better questions you ask, because your situations are going to get bigger and bigger, as you grow. but you can't do that without the right foundation. Okay, so you got the time, a little bit of money. I saw people starting out with $20 per, so maybe they have to spend $200. And I'm being, it seems like I'm being facetious, but I'm really not. So these people that have all this money, I tell them, well, if you got $6,000, you got a fortune to start, and you don't even need to use the whole $6,000. Not right now. You need to learn the process, okay? And then you must have the system that I'm talking about. And it doesn't have to be my system. It just needs to be a system, a process where you are managing this. Because guess what else happens? People start winning so fast. And it happened to me when I started winning. I'm like, oh my God, what price did I give them? That's how I came up with the bid tracking sheet. All of my experience is either failure or success or both. Okay, so we got the 3 steps. So the first one is you're going to choose the products. I'm going to show you how that works. You're going to do the step 2 where you have to learn, how do I work with these suppliers? It's easy to say, well, number 2 is work with suppliers. I cannot tell you how many people mess that part up because they just go out there, start talking to people. They don't even think about things because nobody's telling them. They're thinking, okay, well, I'll just use this supplier. But you got to know what that means. What does it mean, approved source? And the government, sometimes they have wording that does not tell the true situation, not on purpose, but to them. When I win, I could be an approved source. And that happened to me with the paint, but that's because I had the paint made. So I couldn't understand, why are the people calling me or my company asking, can they buy some paint? And I said, don't they know we won? Again, this is how I learned. And then I went back and realized that's because they're putting us out here as an approved source. I didn't understand that. But that's the way the system works, meaning the DIBBS system. It identified me, or my company, I should say, even though it had 2 other companies that used to win. They were on there too. But so was I by default. So there are a lot of things that happen. But at first, I was trying to talk to those 2 approved source suppliers because I mean, the government said they're an approved source. I didn't know anything either. I just use my business sense to understand and pull back the layers. And that's when I realized, oh my goodness, these approved sources, most of them are not even people I should be talking to. Now, I quickly got frustrated and I went out there and got my manufacturing friends. I know people, I have a lot of clients. So I would go get the manufacturers to make stuff for me. But then I realized, but Michelle, everybody can't do that. You're going to have to figure out, how do you help everyone else? They're not going to be making products right away. So how do you figure out a way for them to get around these so-called approved sources that do not want to sell to them? Then I figured out, I'm just going to investigate these people. And I started figuring out most of them were not the original manufacturers. They weren't even distributors. They were contractors like us. And I said, there we go. And that's when the doors opened wide. Not for me, because I was already winning, but that's when I was able to open the doors for everybody else. And so you learn these little things. And then you start building your own. Next thing you know, you have 2 employees helping you build your DLA business, your DOD business. And maybe you decide products is all I want to do. I don't really want to do services, or I want to do both. Okay. So step 2, that's a tricky one. It's these little big things that make people fail. I'm not saying you have to be with me because you don't. I'm just saying learn the whole story. And most of them that were using the free information, they were winning and then coming trying to get a consultation with me to help them figure out what they messed up, because the contracting officer is sending them contracts and they're not responding because they don't even know where to find the contract. Contracting officer is not always going to send it to your email. So those things were disturbing to me, and I'm not going to help people fail. I'm not going to do it. And that's why I don't sell the hot list to the public. Now, if I have a different hot list, I probably will create something like that for people in services. I mean, I've been thinking about a lot of different things, but I'm not going to let you buy a DLA hot list and you don't know what you're doing unless you can demonstrate to me that you know what you're doing. Okay, and then the last thing is submitting the offer, which is very quick and fast. Once you learn how to do it, at first it might take you 40 minutes to do your first one, but it's not like services where we have to sit down for a couple of days and do this beautiful package and look at this intimidating scope of work. It's not the same. Okay, so that's the system, and then we'll walk through those things. But I want you to think about the whole picture. Even though I just showed you the system, that's 1, 2, 3. This is what happens at 1, 2, 3. So the first thing that happens is I just want to draw a map for you in general. The contracting officer posts all these bids. That's where we looked at the hundreds of thousands of bids that are sitting out there, right? And so the contracting officer posts the bids on the bid board system, which is DIBBS. Speaking of NSN sites that you're buying products from, mm-mm, no, you got to be careful with them. I mean, you can use them in case of emergency, but they're not a good supplier. They're not a long-term partner. A lot of people went from them when they first start, but they quickly realize because I tell them, don't mess around with them people because they're not going to be consistent. They're not partners. You need a supplier that's going to be your partner and that you can do consistent business with them, a lot of business with them. You find out what they have, what the government needs. Maybe they have a lot of stuff that the government needs. Traceability is not that hard. And we have a traceability letter inside the program because you can get different types of traceability requests. They can ask for an invoice. They didn't used to do that, but now it's easy. So you see right here where we are, you make an offer, the contracting officer wants to work with you, they're going to send you a traceability request if they don't know you. That doesn't go on forever. Once you get in the system and you are considered reliable and stable, because you won and you have that past performance, even though past performance doesn't even count. Not just with DLA, you don't have to have past performance in services either. Not anymore. The government wants to do business with us, small businesses. And a small business is a $40 million, in manufacturing, $700 million. Small business is a huge, huge number. It can go, you can be zero with no contracts, all the way up to $40 million contracts. And that's the beautiful thing about federal government. I'll stay a small business in manufacturing all day long if I can generate, I didn't say profit, but generate $700 million in revenue. If I go over that, I'm not considered a small business anymore. That's amazing. That's amazing. Who wants to be one of these large corporations that make messes of things? So that's us from 0 to 700 million because it depends on what you do. It depends on your NAICS code and all of that. But number 5 is where you would get those requests for traceability because they don't know you. They might simply ask you for an invoice. But if they don't see what they're used to seeing, which is what my people know. My people know if you get a traceability, you go right into your course, right into your program and download. If they ask you for a big traceability, you go get the template that guides you and tells you what to say. If they ask for an invoice, then you just go inside your supplier's account. So if you found a supplier that you're going to work with, more than likely they're going to give you an account. Go in and print out the invoice and give it to the contracting officer. Sometimes they'll give you a choice. But those traceability letters that are bigger, those are considered vendor capability letters or statements. They want you to tell them a little bit about who you are and what you do. Okay. These processes, systems, and procedures, they're very important. So number 6, let me get back to this so we can get through this. So number 6 is the CO accepts your offer because you gave them a traceability or whatever the case it is. You bid on the contract. They liked what you had to offer. They sent you a traceability, and you won't always get a traceability letter. Sometimes you'll get them, but when you get experience, you won't probably get them anymore at all. And the contracting officers will just try to talk to you, and they will try to give you more business because they need friends too. They do. They need us. So they accept your offer. They award you the contract. And this is what was happening with the people that were learning from my free stuff. They didn't know what to do after number six. And then number seven, you purchase the product for the award. You don't purchase, there's so many great things about DLA. DLA has some pain points. That's why you got to have a system because you're going to run into challenges. You got to learn how to do some things. But you don't have to buy the product until after you win. Now, you do have to tell the contracting officer if it's over 45 days, you need to let them know, I need to check on this price. You awarded me this, but I need to check on this price because sometimes they won't even ask you. They'll just award you. That's what happened to me. When they see you have a really good price, they will blindside you and they will give you a huge award, which is sometimes not good. Thank God I know business. That would have been a mess for me if I did not know business in general. Okay. And then number eight, the supplier, or the supplier, excuse me. Number eight, the supplier ships the product to you. Now, why does the supplier ship it to you? Because those of you that understand drop ship, you know that the government doesn't, I won't say the government, DLA, because you can do that on the SAM side. On the SAM side, a lot of times you could do that if you talk to the contracting officer about it. They don't really care as long as it gets there safely because if something happens to it, they're not going to pay for it. You are. But on the DLA side, you need to know how to package. You need to know what shipping is. You need to know how to label. So they ship it to you and you label and package or package and label and ship to the government. Okay, so that's what happens behind the scenes. That's how that's going to work. So government is like a massive, I won't just say government, but especially DLA, because it's all products. If we want to do services with them like I do, that's at a whole nother level. Okay, but it's massive. But this is where you are going to go to do step one. You're going to choose products from the list that they give you. Okay, they give us a list. This is why I say government contracting is one of the best business models ever because you don't have to do as much thinking. You just find out what they need and their thing is, listen, I need these scrubs. Can you get them for me or not? And how much is it going to cost? Send me a message. It's like that. They must buy these things. So in step one, you choose the products off of a list of 5,000 categories. Notice that term I use is categories. Nobody else talks about it this way, but I want you to understand these are not just codes, they are category codes, which allows us to literally have access to thousands and thousands and thousands of products. And I'll tell you what I mean by that in a minute. So DLA gives us the list. Those products are on the DLA Federal Supply Code list. It's a list. Some of you guys know what I'm talking about. Some of you guys don't. These are thousands of category product items that the DLA must buy. Remember, they buy for the Navy, the DLA buys for the Navy, the Army. They buy for about 15 different agencies. And actually, I've done things with Health and Human Services, and the DLA has helped Health and Human Services. I don't know how they do, right now. Health and Human Services is one of my special agencies that I love to work with, but they're having a lot of problems right now. And until we get those people out of there that are in there right now, this country could be in trouble because that's where our vaccines come from. But DLA is taken care of because they do the same thing. I do vaccines for DLA, but they are doing it for the military. Health and Human Services does it for the country, schools. Remember when we were getting those free COVID tests and getting COVID shots and all of that? That's Health and Human Services. All of that is Health and Human Services protecting the country. We don't have that right now. So most of our systems are normally in place. Our systems are being broken down right now. The only one that is not being broken down is DOD because nobody really messes with DOD for some reason. But I mean, and that's good for all of us that are in DOD and that do business with DOD. Okay, so there are thousands and thousands of products, and these product categories are posted on DIBBS, and I'll show you what I mean. So these products posted are contracts between $20 or cheaper and $250,000. You could literally start doing some of these smaller contracts, and you're thinking, well, I'm just moving slow, I'm doing the small ones. Next thing you know, they send you a $250,000 contract, basically telling you they don't need it all right now, but they're telling you, hey, we like that you've been selling us these bolts or these washers or these brackets or this aviation equipment. And so we are going to award you this $250,000 contract where we're going to start, the minimum we're going to buy from you is 50,000, but we can buy from you off of this contract that we're going to award you up to $250,000. Listen, you have a few of those, you've done $1 million by the end of the year, the end of the fiscal year. Okay. So it's the little things. That's why I say when people are so anxious to go big right away and they don't even know what they're doing, you're setting yourself up for failure. Because if you don't have the foundation, that $1 million that you just made, maybe not all profit, you do $1 million worth of business and you do 250,000, that's great. That's your salary. If you're an executive in corporate America, that's your salary right there. So you know what you're doing, but you don't know what you're doing. Or I should say, you're winning, but you really don't know what you're doing. But the way that we take our power as small businesses was set aside. I bid against McKesson. That's who I bid against, McKesson and Cardinal and Owen Miners. I don't care about everybody else because people like me that do that, we can bring over the business to the small business community. Government don't like them anyway because all they do is take advantage. But when we are out there beating these large companies, people always think, well, I can't beat them. Yes, you can, because large companies are greedy. I come from corporate America. They overprice everything. That's how you beat them. And I can still be considered a small business and beat the stew out of them. And that's the problem, is we're always thinking small. That's the problem. We need to, none of my DLA people, when they first get started, none of them win from set asides because they listen to me and they just go out there and they start winning. I'm not saying our set asides are not good for us. They are, but don't stay focused there. Go get some more. Do both. So here's the list. And you see, it's kind of small, probably, maybe for you. Let me see if I can see that. These FSC codes right here. You see that? Those are the FSC codes we're going to talk about. What is an FSC code? Well, that's very important to you if you're going to do DLA products. An FSC code is the Federal Supply Class Code, and it's 4 digits, okay? It is how DLA, only DLA uses FSC codes. It is how DLA actually classifies its products. So it's a portion of, some of you guys may know this, I'm not going to go too deep, but it's a portion of the NSN. The NSN is an actual product number, but the FSC code is actually a category of products, if that makes sense. And I know nobody really teaches it that way. I teach it that way because it's true and it makes sense. So I could do 5306 as an example. That is an FSC code, but that could have hundreds, even thousands of products under that FSC code. Okay, so first, what we do in the process is we choose an FSC code from the list. Then we take that FSC code and we go to DIBBS because we want to see what kind of products are under 5306 as an example. And you're going to see all kinds of things, not just one thing, but you're also going to see maybe the same product, or it looks like it's the same product, but it's not. So you could see, let's say 50 bolts, they look the same, but their NSN is different. They have the first 4 digits, but the rest of the digits that are attached to the first 4 make it a separate, different product. That's very important because when you are with me or when you first get into the program, I tell you, you need to look for longevity. You need to look for situations that allow you to start winning in a category and continue to win in that category. That's how you build your supplier relationships. That's how you build credit. That's how you build so much that you can jump off of to the next level because it's about consistency. That's how you get the $250,000 contracts where they say to you, we're going to buy off of this one contract for a year up to 250,000. That's how you get those. And then you end up being so good at it, or you end up focusing in that area or that category of FSCs. This is how you win multi-year contracts at another level that turn into multi-million dollar contracts. Okay. So that's very important for me to explain to you that FSCs are categories. And I know nobody else says it that way, but they are. And if you look at it that way, you will see you have a magnitude of opportunities in certain spaces. You will also find a lot of low competition items, even though you guys know I don't like the C word, but you will find a lot of areas with items where nobody's paying attention because there's so much business out there. Okay. So remember, one FSC can reveal hundreds of separate, even thousands of separate products, and they're different. But you might be able to use the same supplier and or the same manufacturer for all of those products because they're closely related. Okay. And I'm going to show you an example of that. First of all, before we go to the example, look at this. The FSC, for those of you that have never been to DIBBS, this is the bid board system. This is DIBBS. So you see this, we come to DIBBS. You can actually get here through the home page. You click on that RFQ right there, and then you will get this page. And then you click on where it says down here, RFQ database search. You're going to choose FSC or federal supply class, and then you put a code in here, an FSC code, and you're going to get all kinds of products. Or maybe you might just get 2, or maybe you might get 10. What do I say about those? You can start with those, but that's not longevity. You want to go in looking for areas where you can do a lot of activity. That's how you become very powerful very quickly. And you make friends with the contracting officers. You do a lot of things, and you start building credit depending on who the supplier is. Just so much that can happen. Okay. So that's where you're going to search for the types of products from the list. I got this 5339 from the list. And I come in here and I look to see what does that include. Okay. So this is an example I'm about to show you. So this is one FSC code that I'm about to show you with 11,970 products in under one FSC code. Here it is right here. I'm going to show it to you. Look at that. You see that number up there? 11,970. This is a category of 53s. Now, I did combine a lot of 53s, but they're still very closely related. Now, why is the number 53 important? I can take the number 53 and go over to SAM and do the same thing, find the same types of products. Just put in 53, but it will have 5330, it'll have 5331, 5330. So all I did was group the category together, and I ran a report in DIBBS. I put all of these codes in there, and then I just hit search, and it gave me 11,000. So I could do gaskets, I could do seals, I could organize all of this by any one of these. I can do non-tech docs because I tell you guys in the beginning, stay away from tech docs until you know what you're doing. Tech docs are where we start to make products. And you think that you can do a lot of business and make a lot of money in DIBBS in general once you get your rhythm going. Wait till you start looking at making products, like getting a contract, a manufacturer to make a product for you. Markup is anywhere, and I'm being nice when I say 40%, 40 to 75%, because the government needs us to make these products. You know why they need us? Because all the big 5, Boeing, Raytheon, General Dynamics, they all screwed up everything. Meaning, they used to be the ones using the small businesses to make all these products. And now they are the problem. And now they've gone away. They're not blocking anymore because they got their own problems. and they're making other messes. But there are a lot of items out here. There is what we call a no bid list, where there's so many items that the government needs. Guess who made all those products? Them people, all those large billion-dollar contractors that make a mess. Boeing especially. But Raytheon ain't no better, and neither is General Dynamics. They're all problem children, and Honeywell. They're all problems because they created this mess, made the government dependent on them. And I'm happy for it because now the government don't really want to deal with them unless they have to. Do you guys realize we only have two plane manufacturers in this country? We need to get our stuff together. We really need to get back to manufacturing. And the only president that understood how important that was Biden. I know he was getting older, but he's the only one. Most of y'all don't even know what that man was doing. He was going to make us number one in chips. And that's not your fault. It's actually the Democrats' fault and Biden's too. But he was doing some great things. I was already deciding to go into manufacturing. Biden is the one that made the things that I'm focused on a priority. A lot of these presidents talk a good game. Biden is the only one that made it happen. So, and now we're going to get pushed 5 steps back, maybe 10, maybe 20. But I am teaching my community, let's keep going. Let's just, because we know the government needs us. So we're in a very powerful place. We are. If you're a government contractor, you're in a very powerful place. So, but this is what I'm talking about. Now, when I say categories also, I broke it down a little bit more. But when I say categories, we could talk about the first four. I broke it down even more to the first two. Okay. So the 53s, I know what the 53s are. It could be gaskets, packing materials, rubber, it could be any of those things. Okay, so if I were to organize this by nomenclature and I just wanted to do gaskets, I could do gaskets all day long. And I could find me eventually, if I'm new to this, I would want to do the gaskets, maybe work with a supplier, and then find my own manufacturer to make these gaskets. Because that's what this tech doc is. It's the blueprints. That's how you build wealth with DLA and DOD. They need us very badly. People just don't know what to do. Okay, so let's move on. So that was an example. Now, in step two, they're just some very basic, well, I shouldn't say they're basic. They're like secrets, kind of, that people get inside DLA and they start bidding and they don't know about suppliers. So step two is contacting product suppliers. They do give us, so let's go there to see. They give us the suppliers. Well, where do we get those from? We get those from the solicitation, but we also get those from DIBBS. When we go into DIBBS, just like when we're looking for the types of products. So let's say that 5330, we go in there, we look at 5330, we're going to see a lot of this information. We won't see the pricing, but we will see information about the product. We will see, because this solicitation does a lot of things. You don't use the solicitation to bid. You only use it for information to bid. But you're going to find out, if you look closely in here, you're going to find out what the order is going to be, like what the order amount is and all of that. Let me go back and show you guys something. I mean, if we have time, I'll go on over there, but I want to show you something. So do you see, here's the solicitation right here, this little SPE. If you were to click on that blue link, you would get this solicitation. And it's not to bid with. Let me show you guys how I didn't know what I was doing when I was trying to help the veterans. I had to ask the contracting officer, okay, do you want, because remember, I knew how to do SAM. I was winning on the SAM side. I had to ask the contracting officer, do I download the solicitation and do you want me to submit that solicitation, or do I do it in the system? And they said, Michelle, you don't have to do both. And I thought, okay, see, that's how I learned. I learned by making mistakes, and then I taught it to everybody else because I actually do it. So I knew what I was doing, is because I made the mistakes. Nobody could help me because they didn't know. Even the specialists don't know. These trainers, some of them, they're very good, but they don't know how to do this. I bet you if they had to do it, the trainers, the DLA trainers, I bet you they couldn't do it. They know how to teach it, and they don't even teach it like I teach it, of course, but they don't know how to do it. None of those people know how to do it. The contracting officers that award us, they don't know how to do this. That's why I have contracting officers in my program because they're like, I need to get on the other side, because I know this ain't going nowhere. So they retired, accepted the package, and then they get it in DLA or SAM. Okay, so that's where this comes from. But this is a very important tool. Okay, this is where all of your information is going to be. You need that information to talk to the supplier because you have to know what price you're looking for. Now, this just happens to be a very expensive unit cost. I probably should change this demonstration document, but it just happens to be very expensive. But this could be $1. This could be quantity one. If you guys can see this, let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger. It could be quantity one and unit cost 1,400 or unit cost $2 or unit cost whatever it is that you decide to offer the government. Your information when you win shows up here also. People won't know who you are because they don't have that open public anymore. You literally have to log into your account and know people's exact company name and their cage code to figure out who is that beating you. But they can click on a link inside the awards and see that you won and see your cage code. So you could be listed here, okay, every time you win. And then people are just going to try to beat you. They don't really care who you are. They just sometimes will see that you're winning a lot. And they're thinking, who is this person winning a lot? And how are they beating me all the time? That's what I did with the paint. I had to figure out that the two people that kept winning with the paint, I said to myself, but some of this is because, not just because I'm so smart, it was because I have business acumen. I mean, I just figured out they must be manufacturing this because I cannot get one quote that is under $125. In fact, all of the other quotes that I was getting for that paint was like $400. I'm thinking, this is crazy. And then I said to myself, they're making that paint. They must be manufacturers. So I said, I'm going to get me a manufacturer to make that paint. And I beat the stew out of them, knocked both of them out of the way. And I knew that's what I would do because remember, I had already won. I was already starting to win with DLA. So I was figuring out, and I was also figuring out there were a bunch of haters that didn't want to give pricing. That's what the veterans were worried about. We don't have those problems no more because we know who we should be talking to. They didn't know that at first, but we know now. So I don't hear people complain about that anymore. And even when I used to hear people saying, well, that supplier, he doesn't want to work with me. And why do you care? Go find another one and stop calling suppliers without knowing who they are and investigating them. Look to see if they're winning. Are they on the solicitation? Are they under the awards and DIBBS? You got to do those things. You need to know what the environment is like. You're new to the game. So that's what this does. It tells you everything you need to know before you talk to the supplier. Okay, so there are a couple of little big things. First of all, when you're working with the suppliers, before you reach out to them, you research them. Now, some people might think, well, how long is that going to take? It doesn't take long at all. It's a simple process. You just look to see, are they winning in DLA by their cage code? You can look to see if they're winning in DLA or are they on the history report, the solicitation that we just looked at. But the solicitation does a few things. It gives us the part number or numbers. Sometimes we can have multiple part numbers, which is a great thing because if we have multiple part numbers, then what we can do is that means we have multiple suppliers. Now, some of them may not be a real supplier. They may be, even though it looks like they're an approved source, they may be another contractor like you. That's why you have to vet them. But on the solicitation, we're going to learn what the part numbers are. We'll also learn that in the DLA system. When we click on the link to look at the NSN, the FSC NSN, it's going to tell us what the part number is. That's how we know. That part number is also in the bid board system when you go to bid. Okay, so that's how you will match everything up. It'll kind of do it for you. But the part number, how many units do they want? The solicitation will tell you that. even though we don't use this document to bid. Now, let me say this to you. I use them to bid because I'm in another category. I do RFQs and invitation to bid. Contracting officers send me invitations for pharmaceuticals. They're called IFBs. Now, in those situations, I have to do a whole solicitation that could take me weeks. It's so intricate. So you will see some of them, like if you ever see that, don't be surprised because DLA does invite people or companies to bid on certain things. And they do that because I'm a manufacturer inside. I don't manufacture pharmaceuticals, but other things. They need other supplies, other medical supplies, things like that. So they reach out to you to say, you know, I'm asking you, are you interested in this? This is for pharmaceutical. We need, this is a 4-year contract. And so that's the only time you will see a solicitation that you literally need to respond to. It's just like on SAM, okay, on the SAM side. But then the solicitation that you will be using when you first start for DIBBS is it will have the part number, the number of units, it'll have the approved source, or I should say also the original equipment manufacturer. Now, let me tell you something in general about manufacturers. They don't like to do business, a lot of them. They're not, most of them, some of them are, but a lot of them are not bidding against you. They're just using distributors to literally distribute their products, and you are mostly going to be working with distributors. Most of the time, you will not be dealing with the OEM. The only time you will be dealing with the original equipment manufacturer is when you are ready to be a distributor yourself. How do you get to be a distributor yourself? You do what I talked about earlier. When you are focused in a specific area, you're building that relationship with that supplier. Then you skip over the supplier who might be the distributor, and you go to the manufacturer and say, hey, I sold 1,000 of your products this year, or 200 of your products this year. 1,000 products sounds like a lot, but that could be five contracts, or one big contract, the 250,000 that I talked about. So everything that I teach you to do is about the future. You building your vision for where you want to be. Because we don't even need past performance for DIBBS. We don't even need past performance for SAM either, quite frankly. But you don't want to just be out there doing stuff. You should have 20 to 30. And a lot of my proteges, they have way more than that. And that's why sometimes they start winning faster than they can handle. But you need to start bringing someone in to help you. So pricing history, all of that's on the solicitation. Also, very important, packaging. That solicitation is going to be with you throughout the process. Okay. Now, lastly, let's talk about these approved sources. I kind of told you some of this. These approved sources are not true to who they're not true to who the government says they are. Remember what I said. I wasn't really an approved source that went through an approved source process, but none of them are. I mean, the system does it. It's not like the contracting officer said, Michelle is an approved source. They didn't do that. The system did it. And DIBBS is old, but they keep adding to it. Okay, so the system identified me as an approved source because that contracting officer gave me, I didn't bid on a 6,000 5-gallon container contract. I didn't bid on that. I thought I was just getting a contract for like 10 gallons of paint, something small, 10 5-gallon containers of paint. You know why she did that? She did that because she's never seen a price like mine, and she wanted me to have that. She helped me to win. So, I made it so she wasn't sorry. But guess what? That situation wasn't perfect. My manufacturer messed up the labels. Even though I taught him how to do the labels, he said he could do it. So, we had some hiccups, but we delivered early. So because I was able to deliver early, it wasn't due for 100 days or something like that, 90 days, something like that. We delivered early. So I was able to recover with the mistake that the trucking company made, that my manufacturer made. And I'm thinking to myself, I didn't even make any of these mistakes. That's where I learned. You got to manage people around you. You have to know your stuff so that you can tell other people what to do. You can tell them that ain't right. You didn't do that right. That label, when you send a wrong label with a wrong NSN, which is what my manufacturer did, and I loved him to death. I mean, he did a great job on the paint, but I didn't tell you to put that label on the paint. You're getting stuff mixed up. You're not organized. So you know what he did? He labeled the first order correctly, the first 3,000. The second 3,000 had the wrong labels. That told the government, this ain't the right paint, but it was the right paint. Fortunately, I knew how to talk myself out of this situation. But it's because I trusted that the manufacturer had competency in areas that he did not. He's never worked with the government before. I had to tell him, we can't be doing that with the government. You can't be mixing up labels. That the labels you put on there is for another contract. So you got to watch things. You got to know what you're doing. And that's what I was telling the young man. And that's why I'm so passionate about that, because it can destroy you. I don't want to scare you, but I want you to know. And we're allowed to make mistakes, by the way. That didn't hurt me. That one situation, it did not hurt me. But guess what? It could have. It could have. What it did was it delayed payment on the second half. And you know what I told the manufacturer? Well, that's not hurting me because you're the one that needs to be paid and you don't get paid until we fix this because this is your mistake. You know how I knew it was his mistake? Because I had the evidence. I track everything, all my details. I kept it in the file for that contract. And you guys should do that too. So our approved sources, I turned into an approved source. Didn't know I was an approved source, but approved sources, you can unofficially become an approved source and not even know that you're an approved source because you now have presented a product to the government that they accepted. Okay. She had the right to do that. They don't do that often. Most of the time, you have to let them know that a product doesn't exist before they will consider an alternate. But I didn't give her an alternate. What I did was I used the tech docs to create the same paint. That's why she was able to do that. If I had said, well, this paint does the same thing, she would not have accepted that because it's a process. Okay. So approved sources can be other contractors. You need to always remember that. Approved sources are not always OEMs, original equipment manufacturers. Sometimes they are. But the reason that's important is because you may be talking to a distributor or a retailer and you think you're talking to a manufacturer. They're not. You got to know, and you can ask them, are you part of the manufacturing company that makes this product? And they will tell you. And the other reason you need to know is because if they ask you for traceability for the product and they need to know where you're getting this from, you can't get it from the brother down the street. You cannot do that. You have to show, I got this from a legitimate source, whether they are a retailer or a distributor, or even directly from the manufacturer. Okay. Then lastly, distributors or retailers must be authorized to sell the product. So what is traceability as it relates to the distributor or the reseller or the retailer? The traceability would be, I need something to demonstrate that you are authorized to sell that product. Because guess what? A lot of these products, you're not going to get them directly from the manufacturer. You're going to get them through a source. A lot of people don't understand that. They're thinking, well, I got to get it directly from the manufacturer. It's their cage code. No, you don't. You just need to make sure that the part matches and that the OEM and the part are together, that they match. That's it. And you can get it from one of their distributors. Now, as you get more experience, you probably can get it directly from the manufacturer. Again, that's strategy. That's why I talk to you guys about the inside details. It's these little big things that can matter. Okay, we strategize all the time in Mastermind. So step 3 is you're going to submit your offers. Most of the work is in step 1 and 2. And in step 3, all you're going to do is take all of that information and you're going to bid. And where are you going to bid? If you were to go back to DIBBS, you're going to see you put in a code. Let's say you put in 5330. It's going to be right here on the screen. All you're going to do is you should log in first. If you're already working in DLA, whether you're with me or not, you should log in first because it's just going to make you log in. And then you hit the quote and now you're ready. And whatever's on your spreadsheet, the pricing, the supplier, all of that, you're going to put it in here. Okay. And it's going to take you, maybe your first time is going to take you 40 minutes, maybe longer. Because if you're not with me, you need to understand how to do this on your own. You'll figure it out, but be careful, okay? Because even though it's easy, it's not easy. You could be putting things in wrong. I made a mistake my first time bidding. One of the ladies, one of the contracting officers said to me, Michelle, are you the manufacturer? No. Okay, well, you put that in the wrong place. I was surprised that she knew that much because most of them don't even know this stuff. And so I was like, she's right. I did put it in the wrong place because I didn't know. Remember, I am the original guinea pig. I did all of this on my own, just learning by doing, just so I could help the veterans. And I didn't realize how a lot of you guys would rather do products than services. Richard was the one that made me realize. He's like, Michelle, you got to get this program out because me and my partners, when I was in the military, we all dreamed about doing this. We just didn't know how to do it. So I did DLA because I thought, first of all, I got to help these veterans. Secondly, I thought, well, I guess I better go ahead and create something so that other veterans can use it too. And then I realized there are people out there that are they just don't want to do services. Okay. So the bidding is the easiest. Now, last but not least, I want to tell you guys what you hear people, some of you talk about. This is a hot list. This is us finding a supplier that we know is not going to give you a hard time, getting you started, helping you to hit the ground running so you can literally win within 15 to 30 days. It's just that simple. We do all the vetting. And by the way, your spreadsheet, you see how this spreadsheet looks? Your spreadsheet should look like this. You should have the NSN. I don't show the NSN on here, but on our hot list, it does show. You should have the NSN. You should have all of that information. Everything should be on your spreadsheet that you use. You should have a column for when you're going to bid, what the pricing is going to be, all of that. Again, it's about your system. And some of you guys, even before you got with me, you had your own tracking system. You know, when I realized that I needed a tracking system, when I won the first time and I forgot because I didn't have it organized. I didn't even remember because when I went back in to see the pricing that I offered them, I said, oh my God, I didn't realize that I won't be able to see the offer that I made anymore. And they had just awarded me. I said, oh my goodness. So that's when I created a bid tracking sheet, very much like this. But it was to help me organize because I already knew if I do this the way that I do on SAM, if I plant a lot of seeds, I mean, my common sense said I'm going to win fast. And I wanted to win fast. So now, was I doing 20 on the pharmaceutical on the SAM side? No, but I was doing at least 8 to 10, and I started winning quickly on the SAM side. So I thought, well, the system probably works the same over here. Maybe I'll just do 25 or 30 and see how fast I start winning. And that's exactly what happened. So that's what this does. But the reason I created the supplier, the approved source supplier hot list is because I still do this. I think about if I had help, what would have helped me not be frustrated? What would have helped the veterans not be frustrated? And I said, it's those suppliers. If I could have understood that all of those suppliers or approved sources are not approved sources. That's why I came up with the vetting, because I said, if we check to make sure that we know who we're dealing with, then we won't call them. Because every time you call one of them, now you done told them what your strategy is. You're in their space and they're not going to let you in. They're going to try to block you if they can. Some of them won't even tell you that they're bidding on it. But then some of them, and it's not like this anymore because we busted that up. We don't need them no more. So we ain't scared of nobody no more. They used to be so frustrated, the veterans. Well, we called those people, we tried to get to Honeywell. They said they're going to bid on this and it's a veteran. How can they bid? How can they bid on this if they're not a veteran? And I said, they can't. They're trying to intimidate you and you believe them. Well, I didn't believe them. You did tell us, but they act like they can do it because they're trying to intimidate you. That's against the law. And they don't want you in the game. And you just called them and told them everything. So we're going to fix that. But that's what the hot list is. We wanted people to hit the ground running, but I wanted people to go through the program, step one, two, and three. That way they know what to do with the hot list. Not one person, well, I take that back, maybe one. We have a lot of hot lists that we've done, a lot. But maybe I can say, at least as far as I know, my team may know about others, but with the hot list, I can say truly very few people ask questions about it, but this is a tracking sheet. And even if they want to bid from here and then maybe create their own for the future, they could do that. But everything is right there. And they don't have to vet the suppliers anymore because we've done that for them. We can tell them it's safe for you to deal with this supplier. You ain't even got to do all that. All you got to do is sign up for an account with this supplier because we look for that too. We really like the manufacturers, and sometimes it's directly a manufacturer. We do that too. We give them actual manufacturers if the manufacturer has been vetted, if they look friendly, and if they look safe, and if they have the products. All right, so this is it. It is time for our Q&A, and we have about 10 minutes. Okay, and I can answer some of your questions. I see some of them already here. I see 8. I could probably get through those. Um, oh, so AJ says he thought Sam was all services. No, it's products too. That's remember, I did products in Sam. Pharmaceuticals are considered products, medical supplies in Sam. So yeah, you do offer more info than others. Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I can't help it. I used to have a team. This team doesn't do that to me, but I used to have my original team that started with me. They would say, "You tell too much," and I just don't agree with people about that. I mean, because I go look for services, and I really am not a cheap person. I will buy and I will pay more. But I don't like it when I don't understand what I'm buying or what people are supposedly helping me with. You are not giving away. Because, see, all the things that I teach you, some things you still ain't going to understand. Just like the young man said to me, I should have just came with you and bought the program. I just didn't want to have to go through the course. I wanted to take the fast track. That's because there's a lot of hype out there about government contracts. It's just jive talk. That's all it is. It's hype. It's not real knowledge. And even if it's partially real, there's something missing. And I just don't believe that. So good. I'm glad you know, and you're welcome for that. Thank you for letting me know. Okay, so Jeff says, is this one of my Jeffs? I have two. Too much time is spent trying to get reasonable pricing, reasonable quotes. Yeah, that's because, okay, let me tell you guys something else too. I haven't finished this question, but keep in mind things are different right now, meaning corporate America, that includes us, just business period. In the market, people love excuses to raise prices. Now, some of it is not an excuse. A lot of the manufacturers, they're all over the place because they don't know what to do. Biden had tariffs, but it's just that it was more organized. Like people knew what to expect. Right now, people don't know what to expect, and so they're scared, the makers of the products. But see, I'm not scared. I think this is a great time when people look, as Warren Buffett says, when everybody goes left, you go right. When everybody goes right, you go left. This is our time. I keep telling my community that if you are sitting, even with all this chaos, if you are just not doing anything or you're waiting until people change administrations, no, that's because the things that we are doing are things that the big guys, they got their own problems. And yes, they are hiking up prices, but you have to give the contracting officers the prices that you get, and you need to mark them up. I'm not saying be ridiculous, but if you're looking at an old solicitation and it's still sitting there, like I said earlier, those are the ones you can mark up. The newer ones that you might see more competition, but those old ones, those are low competition. Nobody's doing them because people are lazy. They don't want to do the work to find out. why the part changed. You going to find out that a part number changed, which is why it's probably sitting there, takes your stock way up. And you can mark it up more because you just help the contracting officer solve a problem. But most people will say, I'm not going, I don't even know what to do with that. They don't know what to do with it. My community does because they're saying, Michelle, some of these parts are being discontinued. Well, find out who the original supplier is or the original manufacturer is. Who are you buying it from? Well, I'm buying it from a large distributor that sells these products for the manufacturer. Okay, ask them who the supplier is. They'll tell you. They're discontinuing the product. So I don't deal with third parties, me personally, not in pharmaceuticals. I just don't believe in it because I learned my lesson in the beginning when I first started doing DIBBS, that these people play all these games and ain't nobody got time for that. And I know they're not the only ones that have that product. So I figured out how to peel back the layers and go straight to the source because I also want the best margins. I'd rather make 30% or 20%. And the only way to do that is to get the experience, deal with what you can find first. And I didn't have to do that, but that's only because I had a little more experience. I understood manufacturing. But when I started calling them manufacturers and they were acting funny, I thought it was because I was a woman. I asked one of the veterans, I said, do you think they act like that towards me because I'm a woman? I asked for 5 quotes and now one of them has sent me a quote, not one. And he started laughing. He says, well, now you see how we feel. But he said, but it probably is because you're a woman and you're assertive. He said, they probably don't want to deal with you. And so that's when I said, forget these people. I know people. I'm going to go get me some manufacturers to make my bolts, to make my paint. But then I realized the veterans are not going to know how to do that. So I still had to figure it out. Okay. Yeah. So some of the quotes are not going to be reasonable. That's why I started saying this. Some of them, so you have to take what you're getting, especially if it's old. If it's sitting out there, do it. Because you won't know really what the price is in this market right now. Prices are going to change back and forth. And sometimes you're going to find lower prices and you're not going to believe it. You're going to be like, is this the right price? Maybe a retailer who's authorized to sell it just wants to get over it. So, and then he says too much time is spent trying to get reasonable quotes. As quotes I receive are outright egregious. Yes, I agree. Sometimes they are, but you have to figure out who you're dealing with. Now the price really may have changed, but just make sure you know who you're dealing with. Look them up to see if they're winning. Um, and what else does he say? What's the workaround? The workaround is when you get, if I'm answering, tell me if I'm answering your question. When you get an approved source, go check them out. Go take their cage code because you can see their cage code as I showed you, right? Take their cage code and go look them up under awards. If they pop up with a whole bunch of awards, don't call them. Now, don't just look them up. Look to see if they're working with your codes. Now, some people ask me, well, what if they're not winning the same products that I'm winning? I mean, you can go talk to them, but me, I don't do it. You know why? Because I'm not trying to be dealing with companies that are trying to tell me what I can and cannot bid on, or they're hating on me because they know that now I'm going to be in their space, even if they're doing something. I think that we need to stop thinking and letting people thinking so small and allowing people to control us. There are other suppliers out there. And if that one, you can't find any other suppliers, move on to another product. We got 50,000, 30,000 products that are still sitting there. Probably 10,000 of them are old and they still need them. So make sure you look them up. If they're winning, move on to the next one. At least you know if they're winning, they are a contractor like you. Even if they're a manufacturer, don't call them. But then you look up another one and there are no awards there under the DIBBS awards tab. They don't come up. They might be a candidate to work with you. Go to their website, look them up, find out what their legitimate name is, because if they haven't been winning awards, you're not going to know their name. Look them up. You can Google a cage code. Whose cage code is ABC? And then you go to their website, you look them up, and then you call them. You look to see if maybe they have a store, maybe if they have products on their website. A lot of them do. Okay. You want to make sure they're safe before you contact them. Yeah. There's a whole, yeah, you guys be careful. I don't have time to talk to you about this, but my people that are in DLA, their CMMC level one is going to be taken care of. There is so much scamming, and it's not even like little thousands of dollars. I am talking craziness. So my DLA people, they're not going to get scammed. We already had two meetings. We already have I have a cybersecurity expert on my team. She has her own company, but she's in our mastermind, and she's taking care of our people. We're starting. They're starting the first week in September. So she and I have planned this since last year because I knew that we were going to be doing manufacturing. So my mastermind has turned into manufacturing. For those of you guys that don't know, but my mentorship is about process. All of these things we talk about, that's what this is about. Okay. All right. Yeah. Don't let these suppliers scare you. Oh, Shelly, you're welcome. Hi, Shelly. I'm glad you could make it, even though I want you to do your other stuff. You're so good at what you're doing on the service side. But if you want to do products or you're thinking about products, of course, I'm here to help. But you're quite welcome. Yes, there will be a recording, okay? So Craig says, Michelle, do you recommend attempting to focus on off the shelf? Yeah, that's an easy way to start. You know why? Because you're probably going to have multiple sources in the beginning. The more complicated ones, you may only have a few. But yes, I do. Cots are fun to do, and there's so many of them. So many of them. Those are the non-tech doc ones. Granger, I think, is a little more expensive, but you can start with them, and when you start winning, start looking for the direct suppliers. Okay, so if Granger is not a manufacturer, they don't make squat. Neither does Zorro. But Zorro is probably better. Granger, they can be a little expensive. But remember what I said, prices are fluctuating right now. Don't sell yourself short, but don't be too overzealous on the ones that are newer. The older ones, you can be a little more assertive. Okay, meaning that's the difference between like the newer ones. You can assume you're going to have maybe two or three people, maybe five that are bidding against you. But competition is not what people think it is. We don't have very much, especially on the service side. We don't. We don't have a lot. We don't have a lot in DLA either. So you guys just don't focus too much on the prices went up. If you have more than one supplier, try to get pricing from both of them, but that's not your problem. These contracting officers know what their boss did. They know what their boss is doing. Blame it on what's going on with the tariffs. Okay. All right, but Granger is okay. They are really coming after small businesses. They want to do more with small businesses. That's because a lot of McKesson is the same way. They're pharmaceutical. McKesson, Cardinal, that's because they've alienated the small businesses. And now we don't want to do business with them. I don't do business with them anyway. I don't go to McKesson. I don't have to. I deal with the same manufacturers that McKesson deals with. And I'm teaching my medical supply people how we can do this. We don't need McKesson. We don't need Cardinal. They don't even make these products. They're not even manufacturers. We don't need them. We go around them. That's how we increase our profit margins. Okay. Yes, we will provide you. That's why Ivy's here with me. She's going to be all over me as soon as it's done. That's why we put it in the cloud. I won't even spend time asking my video person to clean it up. Okay. You guys will get the raw thing. So, okay. Michael says, how do we know if a company is qualified to do DLA and SAM? Well, in our DLA program, we give you SAM, but if you want to do SAM first, all you have to do is answer questions. As long as you don't have, even if you have a criminal record, if you haven't done anything within the past 5 years, you can even still be a government contractor. It's not like at the SAM level, they determine, are you experienced enough? They don't even do that part. Okay. Now, some of you guys, you are going to have a link where if you're not ready to get in the program now, you guys will get an offer. I want hundreds more winners. I do. I haven't had as many this year because I haven't been out here. This is probably my first webinar in 6 months because I have to do what you guys have to do. I have big contracts I'm working on. There's a lot going on. We have our CMMC coming up. There's so much going on. This is our time. This is what we need to, because by the time we get these other people, by the time we get rid of these other people, it's going to be on. It's already on, but it's going to be on again. They got to rebuild this country.